Hi everyone! Good afternoon. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday with Dr. Whitney, pound Dr. Mom ND. I almost forgot my glasses. Have to be, where did I put those? I brought them. Well, got them. Okay, knew I was missing something. Definitely seemed to help lately. Okay, so today, as you can tell from the title, very timely, I'm going to be talking about the flu, RSV, and the coronavirus. Oh, it's so scary, right? No, it seriously doesn't have to be. And that's why I decided to talk about this today. So basically, I'm just going to start out. This may end up actually being two parts. And I'm sorry, that's why I got started so late today, because I totally went down the rabbit hole. I came in thinking I brought some stuff from home to show and tell and was just going to do an overview of just, bacterial versus viral illness and why viral illness doesn't have to be as scary as what everybody is making it out to be. We'll just say, what's going on out there in the media and social media. And obviously, okay, yeah, there's a lot of deaths and it can be scary. But as with anything, with proper preparation and natural knowledge of knowledge of natural remedies, Mother Nature, always has a way to tip the scales back in our favor. And it just takes knowing that to be able to get a handle on it. So I came in thinking I was going to do a couple simple things, and then I started diving into all my books again. So I was going to I know some antivirals off the top of my head, but I was like, let's just really get into like a list of them and like what does what and what would you take for what. And I think this might end up being two parts now. So I'll share my books with you and the things that I wrote down in a little bit. But I wanted to get started because I think obviously coronavirus is all over the news right now and everybody's completely freaking out about it. In fact, I believe just this morning or late last night, the CDC released a statement saying, buckle down, brace for it. It's inevitable. We're going to have this horrible outbreak of coronavirus in the US. After, it's gone through China, and now it seems like Iran and Italy are getting really hard hit. And obviously it's a topic of great concern and at the forefront of a lot of people's minds, followed closely behind by the fact that I have now personally seen, I'm going on at least 3 or 4 kids in the last couple weeks with RSV. As well as really nasty flu viruses going around this year, knocking kids out. So 2 kids in my kids' daycare this last week, both out with the flu. And prior to that, at their other daycare, a child with a double ear infection and pink eye. Notably probably viral because he took antibiotics, came back to daycare, and the next week had pink eye again. So obviously it didn't help. Pink eye, ear infections, and strep are all things that can be bacterial or viral. Hence why I still feel it's so important to culture things to see if they're truly bacterial and if it warrants taking antibiotics or not. But conventional medicine doesn't have time for that kind of stuff nowadays. So, that would probably be the first thing. Let's talk about bacterial versus viral. So what we're taught in medical school, the general picture of a bacterial versus a viral illness. So how do you know if your kid's ear infection, if they're sore throat, if it warrants taking them in and getting antibiotics, which, spoiler alert, there are plenty of natural things you can do for antimicrobial antibiotics regardless, but whether that's the appropriate thing for them or not. So typically, a bacterial infection presents as a quick, high onset fever that breaks within 24 to 48 hours. That's pretty standard. Bacterial infections come on fast and hard because it is a foreign bug to your body. It recognizes it very quickly and usually mounts a pretty quick response to it. Okay, so the viral illnesses are more of a low-grade fever, more chronic, more body aches, more fatigue, more wearing you out. And the reason for this is that because unlike a bacteria, which is a foreign bug that infects your body, that your body needs to kill and get rid of through your lymphatic system, a viral illness, a viral infection, how viruses actually infect us and stay in us is that they insert themselves into our DNA. I know it sounds super creepy and like a science fiction movie, but this is the reality. This is why viral infections hang around longer and are harder to kick, especially if you are a conventionally minded person, because there are not very many antiviral medications. It's not as simple as just going in and killing the bug, something foreign in our body, because this virus is actually in our DNA. So we're actually having to kill segments of our DNA, which our body has built-in mechanisms to do this. So it has little checkers along the way. We learn all of this in medical genomics that go through, and before the DNA is sort of sent out from the factory, it's supposed to get checked. And if there's something that doesn't belong there, these little snipper guys come in and they're supposed to clean it out, right? And when they recognize that it's a nasty thing, then they also have to go tell the immune system to kick on and say, hey, come on guys, we gotta, do something about this. So viruses get into our DNA. That's how they replicate. That's why it takes longer to get away. But once our body is onto them, usually in a healthy body, that window is about 7 to 10 days, which is why we say most viral infections are, quote, self-limiting and go away on their own within 7 to 10 days, and why antibiotics are not given. A, obviously, because antibiotics don't do anything against a virus, and B, because our own body has enough of a response, again, in a healthy environment, a strong immune system, strong, clean body, to take care of this on its own. So that's sort of the difference. Now, that said, there is a caveat here, because viruses are so simple. They literally can't live outside of a host, right? That's why they invade people and stay in their bodies and replicate. They can evolve a lot quicker than we can. So what we're running into in the last decade or so is a lot of stronger viruses, right? We're calling them superbugs. So for instance, I remember being in medical school and seeing a flyer on the wall that was talking about like some super strain of gonorrhea, because the antibiotics that used to be effective against it were no longer effective. That's where we get things like MRSA, methicillin resistant Staph aureus. So the staph became methicillin resistant. Methicillin. Anyways, so the bugs can evolve faster than we can. We create synthetic drugs to try to kill them, and they say, ha ha ha, too bad, I'm going to be a chameleon and change, and now your drugs don't work against me. So it's our own fault for creating superbugs when we overuse antibiotics, and now to even some extent antivirals, because viruses can change too. So my son, when he had his febrile seizure last spring, I was very surprised, pleasantly, that the younger, I won't say she's an intern, I think she's a residency fellowship. She's a younger doctor, but like a pediatrician type in the pediatric ER at the Children's Hospital. She legit said to me, we are seeing more and more kids having febrile seizures, and we think they're superviruses. That's literally what she said. She used the word supervirus, because now, rather than the characteristic kind of low-grade fever that we used to say helped us determine between a bacterial and a viral infection, now some of these fevers are coming on with no other symptoms whatsoever, and they're coming on high and quick, which is characteristic of a bacterial infection, but in the end, they're actually viral. So once again, the viruses in nature are trying to stay ahead of our game. They're changing the game on us. So some things that you have to be aware of, like I like to talk about in terms of viral infections too, are the body aches. So that's if you can't determine by the fever. The other thing that's usually pretty characteristic is the fatigue. So the day my son had his seizure, it was 9 o'clock in the morning. We had just had birth to 3 over for his speech appointment, and he was sitting up on the couch fine, and halfway through the appointment by 9:30, boom, he was down. Odd, very uncharacteristic. He had a good night's sleep. He had a good nap the day before, and he was out, and he was down for the count, and he was fatigued and tired and resting on and off all day long. And by 5 o'clock, that's when he had the seizure. So the fatigue, the body aches, the sleepiness, all of that kind of stuff is also very much more characteristic of a viral infection. That is why to truly have the influenza flu, it's not the flu unless you have a fever, is what we were taught, right? That's the first thing. So if you're just, puking or pooping, whatever. It can be coming out of either or both ends, and there's no fever. That's generally a stomach bug. So we say stomach flu. That's what people say. That's just some nasty bug is in your body, and your body is saying, hey, this does not belong here. I am getting it out as quickly as I possibly can. Most of those types of bugs last for 28 to 48 hours. Again, it's like food poisoning. It's a purge. The body is getting out what it doesn't want out. So again, to be the true flu, which is now why so many people are going in and getting tested to make sure, because the quote flu is so dangerous this year. It's got to be a fever. You got to have the fatigue. You got to be worn down and out. Another big thing is the body aches. So people say they're very achy, all over, fatigued, and a fever. Those are usually the three kind of characteristics that you have to be diagnosed with flu. At least that's what you're taught in medical school. Now, as that continues to evolve and change, we shall see. But that is what I wanted to share in terms of bacterial versus viral infections, some of the characteristics, some of the things you look for, what warrants a true flu versus a stomach flu, the superviruses. So again, keeping in mind, if you're trying to just go off of the basis of, well, the fever came on really high and fast, it must be bacterial. That's not exactly what I have personally seen in the last couple years. And then again, the changing ability of the bugs themselves. So we know that the flu has many, many strains. So H1N1. That is a designation of what the flu is, kind of like how we identify probiotics. The H and the number and the N and the number is a designation for flu. So those numbers can change, and there are indefinite combinations of them, essentially. There's hundreds and thousands of strains of the flu. So that is why the flu shot is so controversial, because you hear and see these articles that say, oh, they got it wrong this year, but you should still get the flu shot. It'll help your immune system. No, it doesn't. How do you possibly figure that? I mean, anybody who's ever taken a single course in immunology or medical microbiology could tell you that that is just ludicrous. It has nothing to do with your immune system. You have to have been exposed to a certain strain to have immunity to it. And if they get it wrong, how is it strengthening your immune system in any other way other than it's giving you literally a small dose of a virus to try to build immunity. So if you're not in a healthy, strong state, your immune system, a lot of people do get the flu from the flu vaccine. It's the same way people see like these measles reactions. I've been seeing that in the media too. People who are getting the shot, they're actually causing more outbreaks because so many people rush to get the shot, and then they're shedding the virus from the shot, and they're causing more milder cases, or even in some cases more severe cases of the measles. So same thing with the flu. Traditionally, the flu shot only has 3, maybe 4 strains tops. That's where it comes with the tetravalent, quadrivalent. That's 3 or 4 strains. And usually one of the strains is always going to be the Spanish flu because it was so deadly. The bird flu, the avian flu is another one. And then the third one is whatever they think that year it's going to be. So a lot of times now, I remember I actually did get the pig flu back in college in my undergrad. It was pretty nasty. I was fine in the morning, and by noon I was laying in my bed, just wiped out, fever, body aches, tired, weak. And because that nasty flu was going around, I went to the ER, and this is before I knew any better. And they literally told me, well, the only way to know if it's pig flu is if you go home and take these ibuprofen and your fever isn't broken by tomorrow. I'm like, what? Well, by the time I got home, my fever broke. So I didn't take the ibuprofen, but they still made me stay home from school for 2 more days. So lots of different options when it comes to choosing the flu virus, which is the flu strain which goes in the vaccine, which is why they can, quote, get it wrong. So something to be aware of there. Furthermore, there are studies, I want to say one was done by Harvard, but you'd have to go back and look at my Facebook page. I have shared articles multiple times over the years through the flu seasons that have shown that vitamin D has been studied and proven as effective, if not more, at preventing the flu than a flu shot. So again, a little history. It is not a coincidence that the flu season is in the fall, winter, when we get the least amount of sunlight. So a very strong correlation was made between sunlight and vitamin D and the flu, or your immune system, essentially. And so we know when we supplement with vitamin D, which can be done in a very natural way through cod liver oil, prevents the flu. So that kind of brings me to almost to where I want to share some of my products. The other thing I need to say just before I share products is another little story that I had some colleagues all attending an autoimmune conference this last weekend for some continuing education. And the one thing they said was the common theme throughout was that so many speakers talked about the chemical load on the body and how all of these autoimmune conditions or immune conditions are perpetuated or complicated by the fact that the chemical load on our body is so high that it is literally wearing our body down, and our immune systems are so weak and so overwrought that eventually they just turn on themselves. So we're talking about chemicals in the food. Essentially, this was the comment that was made on Facebook about Monsanto and all the chemicals that are in our chemical seeds and our GMO plants and our pesticides and everything else. And it's all stuff that our body has to filter out. So everything you do that is something your body has to work to detoxify is energy and time taken away from your immune system. Furthermore, it can actually damage your immune system. So that is why it is still so important to know what your food intolerances are, because that is the other major factor that junks up our system and our organs of detoxification and elimination to keep our body clean, so that when we are exposed to things like viruses and bugs, we have the strongest, best reaction possible from our immune system. So know what your food intolerances are, so you start with a clean slate, on top of which you can do things like the Und numbers, which are homeopathic detoxification, essentially, and they can be catered to any organ or any system. There are specific ones for the immune system, which I will get to when I start sharing. The point is, though, as I have already said, in a healthy individual with a strong immune system, the flu is not deadly. RSV is not deadly. Coronavirus and Sars, they don't have to be deadly. You're talking about a lot of other complicating or cofactors, I should say, that contribute to the fact of whether this is going to be deadly for someone, whether their body can cope with it. You don't get sick because you have a deficiency of antibiotics in your body. You get sick because your body has been fueling illness instead of health, okay? And you do that through the personal care products you put on your body and your skin, the chemicals and things that you're breathing through perfumes or scented fragrances in laundry detergents and cleaning products, through the chemicals and pesticides that are on your fruits and your vegetables, and the things that we just eat in general if they're not compatible with our bodies, which is what we identify through the Carroll method, which is what I talked about last week. So if you need a refresher on that, go back to last week and look at that video as well, because I'm still going to start everybody out with the Carroll method in my office. It is just far too important of a piece of the puzzle, far too big of a piece of the puzzle when it comes to having a strong, healthy immune system. I think that is everything I wanted to cover. So I will share products. So why am I not afraid of the flu? There are 2 kids at daycare that have the flu. Am I worried? No, I'm not worried. My mom's going to come down this weekend. She's got a cold. She's worried about getting the kids sick. Not worried at all. Nope, not at all. Why? Why am I not worried? Number one, I don't have it because it's in my fridge. We take our probiotics every day, and when we're surrounded by illness, we double them up, okay? 70 to 80% of your immune system is in your gut. We know that. This is not a naturopathic medical illusion, okay? This is why the gut's so important. This is why we don't eat foods that are not compatible with our body. This is why we take probiotics, and we make sure our guts are healed and functioning well. So if you think you have leaky gut or you've been eating foods that aren't good for you, that's still the first step you're going to have to take, okay? Now, I know for myself, my kids, and my husband, we are doing the best we can with our food intolerances. So we've got that going for us. I don't suspect anyone in my family has leaky gut or needs to be on a gut healing regimen prior to taking some immune products. So we take our probiotics. For kids, depends on the age. I say up to school age, 5 to 10 billion, school age, 10 to 15 billion. And when you start to hit that like 16-year-old adolescence, at that point, you could be considered an adult, even maybe 14, and do 25 to 30 billion a day. Now, if you're sick, you can double that up. That's what I've been doing. I take 25 billion a day. Right now, I've been taking 50. Why not? Keep my immune system strong. The other thing that is very basic that I have talked about a lot is cod liver oil. This is the one I'm taking right now. I brought it in because there's just a little bit left, so I'm not worried about it not being in the fridge. This one doesn't have butter oil in it. I prefer the one with butter oil, but I'm trying to go through all of Green Pasture. This is the Blue Ice line of cod liver oil, which I have talked about many times before based on the Weston Price Foundation's recommendations. I'm trying to get through all the different flavors and product styles. So oils, capsules, whatever, with butter, oil, without. So I've done that mint. It's very good. Cod liver oil, again, is very good because why? Vitamin A and vitamin D. So we take our probiotics and our cod liver oil every day. Now, the fact that I know my kids are around the flu specifically, we've been also adding in daily, and I don't do this every single day in the winter because I don't want to be the kid who cried wolf. I want things to work when they need to work. So I don't do elderberry syrup every day. I know there are people who do this, and it's fine, but realize that when you take something every day, then when you actually really need it, you're going to need to take more, okay? So I found this at Walgreens. I always mix them up, Walgreens and Walmart. I always say the wrong thing on video. When I watch myself later, I realize I messed it up. So this is Mommy's Bliss. It's organic elderberry syrup. I believe it has, yes, vitamins, prebiotics, and some organic echinacea in it as well. This is kids 1 to 12 years. Now, I was recently in Target the other day and pleasantly surprised that I found the same thing, sort of. This is called Baby Elderberry Drops, and you'll notice down here, ages 4 months plus. Honestly, the ingredients are exactly the same. I don't really know. Even the dosage looks the same. It's just that on this baby one, they've made the first dosage for 4 to 12 months, and then they have 1 to 3, and then 4 years plus. So it's 2.5 mils, 5 mils, which is basically a teaspoon. And that's what you can really give any kid over 1. So this is what I've been using just because it's been easy and it's been on hand. Now, that's not to say there aren't lots of elderberry syrups out there. This was the one I had before. This is the one my husband's taking. I got this on Vitacost.com. I also shared an article this morning that was specific to elderberry being helpful for the flu. So, again, there are lots of different options, but those are the things we're taking right now. Now, there are a couple others that we've relied on in the past when my husband starts to get more of like an upper respiratory type thing. This one is pretty decent. Nature's Way, System Well, Ultimate Immunity. The reason I like this is because it's got so many different things in it. So besides your regular vitamins and minerals, zinc and vitamin D, it also has echinacea and astragalus and olive leaf, which are great for boosting your immune system. There's garlic, which I will get to talking about in a second. There's also a blend of medicinal mushrooms, which are huge when it comes to the immune system, as well as Oregon grape and golden seal. Now, what I want to say about garlic, Oregon grape, and golden seal is that those are the 3 probably easiest to get your hands on natural antivirals, okay? So when we're talking about, it doesn't matter if it's the flu, RSV, coronavirus, SARS, they're all viruses. They're all viral. You don't need one drug for each illness, okay? So something like garlic is very, very broad. It's antimicrobial, it's antifungal, it's antibacterial, and antiviral. And a lot of botanical herbs have antiviral properties. This is why I just have to laugh, because if you left it up to conventional medicine, it's not lying, right? But they're not telling you the whole truth either. They're leaving out details. Like they're saying, well, we don't have that many antiviral drugs, and we have Tamiflu, but now they're seeing reactions from Tamiflu, and that might not always be the answer. Yeah, and yet in nature there are dozens and dozens of plants that are antiviral, that have antiviral properties and are very, very effective. And what's even better is if it's bacterial in any way, shape, or form, they target the bad bacteria and not the good. Whereas when you take antibiotics, it kills everything. That's why they're broad spectrum, and why it starts this cycle of once you take an antibiotic, if you don't replenish the good probiotics in your gut, where 70 or 80% of your immune system is, you just keep repeating the cycle, and then you're more susceptible to getting sick, and then you get another infection, and then you take more antibiotics. And without replenishing through probiotics, it can take your body up to a year to get back all of the good probiotics it needs in your gut to replenish and re-strengthen your immune system without having gotten sick again in the midst and taking more antibiotics. So this one's easy. However, you can take just about anything. Like I said, it's easy to get your hands on in most I don't even know in Walgreens. I guess I haven't really looked for botanicals at Walgreens, but most health food stores or even online is super easy. So again, the easiest ones, like I said, in this whole family of viral stuff, no matter what your viral infection is, even the common cold, just rhinovirus, it's a virus. That's what causes the cold, okay? Adenovirus causes tons of respiratory infections. They're all viruses. All of these things are going to be good for viral infections. So garlic, golden seal, oregano oil is a really good one. And then what I say, Oregon grape, Oregon grape, golden seal, and oregano all have the same. So when you get into botanical medicine, there are things that we say make up these botanical medicines, right? And so any berberine containing complexes. So berberine is something that is common in a lot of these antimicrobial or antiviral botanicals. So Oregon grape, oregano, olive leaf, golden seal, garlic, you have medicinal mushrooms, and then I think I should wait. I have my books about the botanicals, but I think I want to share the other products with you first. So that's something for adults, this one's pretty decent, like I said. Otherwise, you can find a lot of immune combinations. This is not airborne, okay? Airborne is vitamin C and zinc, which I have said a million times, doesn't prevent anything. At the first sign of illness, and bacterial at that, Mayo Clinic, I believe, I have this in my immune talk that I do, did a study and that showed that if you take vitamin Z and zinc at the onset of symptoms, all it does is shorten the duration of symptoms. It doesn't do anything to prevent it. So this is not like airborne. Airborne is worthless in my mind. Sorry, okay? This is something adults take. Now, if you've got kids, this is something I found instead. Now, I haven't been able to give my kids this yet because, to be honest, it's a powder. I put it in a smoothie and my son wouldn't drink it, and he's 3. So if you can find another tricky way to get this in your kids, that's great. But this is essentially similar, not as complex, but there's vitamin C, elderberry in here, orange, cranberry, blueberry, astragalus root, and echinacea. So it covers the broad stuff, okay? So this is a powder you can put in anything, again, for another gentle immune booster, separate from elderberry syrup if you're doing that. The other thing specifically for the flu I see a lot for people is that the first sign of symptoms, you can take this. This is what I sell in my office. Ignore the price. I don't think that's actually accurate anymore. I know they just had price changes in the last February 1st, and I think actually this price might be a couple years old. But this is, I'm going to do it like this. Mucococcinum. This is similar to Oscillium, which I see a lot of people talking about online. So that's Borean, which is another homeopathic company. That's their unique preparation of sort of anti-flu, symptomatic stuff. Mucococcinum is a little different. It's a different formulation. And what's unique about this, what I like, is that you can actually use this instead of the flu shot if you were trying to actually do something besides vitamin D as sort of a specific flu preventative. I believe it's 1 a month or every 2 weeks at the beginning of flu season. So this box has 10 tablets. You can take it prophylactically, so before you get the flu, or you can take it at the first sign of flu. So this is homeopathic for the flu. You can get that on my online dispensary, full script, from my website. Now, the other thing that I stumbled on in my cupboard this morning as I was thinking about this talk today were some other homeopathic products. So, as I've said, you need to have a strong immune system. You need to start with a clean slate. You need to clean, your body has to be strong and not bogged down with a bunch of junk. So, I talked about the Carol food intolerance, and then I said, what else? Wounded numbers, which are basically homeopathic detoxification. So in this case, Royal used to have little box kits, which they can no longer sell for stupid legal reasons. But these are the 3. So 3, 20, and 50 were packaged with the Phytogen Immugen. And this was called the immune support kit or something. So these are homeopathic liquid drops. So again, nothing chemically, physically there. They're safe for kids, adults, pets, whoever. You take them, 5 drops 3 times a day or 10 drops twice a day. This is sort of a detox for your immune system. So if you're someone who feels like, yeah, I get a cold and then it hangs around and I feel like I kick it, but it turns into a sinus infection, or then I get bronchitis or pneumonia or whatever, you might want to try these. You might need to hit the reset button on your immune system. All the junk that your body is taking in, whether it's through food that you're eating that's not compatible with your body because you don't know what your food intolerances are, or you haven't cleaned up your chemical products, you haven't cleaned up your products for yourself yet in terms of chemicals, whether that's personal care, home care, your immune system might really be junked up. So you might want to do this. I actually got this kit from my husband last year when he was going on like 6 weeks of chesty nastiness, being winded going up the stairs. And they did an x-ray and told him he may have had pneumonia, but they couldn't give him a straight answer. And they never cultured his throat, which really ticked me off because I knew he had strep. he broke out in systemic hives, like his whole body was in a rash, and pneumonia doesn't do that. So these again are just drops. The Unda numbers are more like a detox, and this one, the Imugen, the Phytogen, is more, I never get the camera right, there we go, is more like a restorative, I guess. So phytogens are stem cells of plants, just like stem cells in humans. They can go in and be very restorative, healing, be whatever they need to be to help things get to back to where they should be. That would be kind of the same thing, but with plants. So when you learn about plant medicine, botanical or herbal medicine, you learn that different parts of the plants have different properties. Well, stem cells, undifferentiated, you basically get all of the benefits of all the parts without having to be so preoccupied with which part and what interaction that it's going to have and could potentially have with other medications or supplements. So it's really great being in the world of homeopathy because everything is very safe. So those are all the products that we're doing. So if you are at all concerned about or have already had bouts of flu, RSV, coronavirus, rhinovirus, nobody's had a bout of coronavirus. Okay, if you've had bouts of flu, RSV, common cold, rhinovirus, or respiratory infections, adenovirus, and or are concerned about coronavirus, as the CDC is freaking everyone out this morning, these are the things that I would be doing. I would not be eating my food intolerances. I would be taking probiotics, cod liver oil, and some kind of specific immune botanical, whether that's elderberry syrup because it's very specific to the flu virus and other viral strains, or just general antiviral stuff like garlic, golden seal, what else did I say? Oregano oil is in capsules is really nice. Oregon grape. There are so many, and that is where, okay, we're at 31 minutes. All right. I'm probably still going to talk about this next week because there's actually a lot to share in the world of antiviral herbals. So this is a preview then. I'm going to end today by showing you these, and then next week we'll talk about them more in depth. So again, in addressing specific viral infections, we have lots of resources in botanical medicine. Number one is this one. I like this one. This is a very user-friendly book, and the 2 pages I have marked specifically that I just wanted to kind of highlight are antiviral and immune support. Oh, go figure. Echinacea. Let's see what else. OSHA, golden seal, myrrh. Myrrh is antiseptic, antifungal, carminative, analgesic. Oh, wait, that's not the one I want to talk about. This is the formula from the previous page. That's why. Echinacea, antiviral, antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, immunomodulator. OSHA, that's the one I wanted to talk about. Antiviral, carminative, and diaphoretic, immune modulating properties as well. Great for upper respiratory infections. Cedar leaf, antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial. You see, you get the picture here, okay? So there's a lot of herbs that have a lot of properties, but specifically we have, and here's even one for the flu formula. Okay, great. Again, echinacea, bone set, which is for all of the body aches and pains. OSHA, again, and then a couple other things that are symptomatic. So there's a couple very specific ones there. And then this one, which I forgot all about, and I actually was so excited back when I bought this book, and as usual, I got too many books, got too busy, didn't have time. This book. You're really serious about wanting to know more about this topic, this is the book I would get. And this is the one where I said, I think I'm going to talk some more about next week because there is so much to share in here, specifically the fact that it talks about natural treatment protocols for the flu at onset. Oh, look at that, oscillonium. Well, there it is. Mild infections, moderate to severe infections, antiviral tinctures. And then what I really liked, they talk about fever, headaches, cough. Oh, look at this. SARS and coronavirus. Not as unusual as the world would like us to think. So they come from similar strains and there are specific treatment. I'll just give you a tidbit. The plants found specific for the SARS virus strains are Chinese skullcap, Istasis, licorice, forsythia, and Sephora. So there you go. It's not as deadly and scary as it has to be. So that's our preview for next week. Oh, and then look, adenovirus, rhinovirus, parainfluenza viruses. Oh, and RSV. Okay, so lots of natural stuff that we can do. And also, oh, I guess I had these too. Just this is why we know I shared the article about Lyme disease too today. Co-infections, treating co-infections. The co-infections is what makes chronic Lyme so bad. It's viral. Big surprise. So when we treat the viral infection or the person's immune system based on the viral infection, all of the chronic Lyme stuff goes away. I've done it half a dozen times already in my practice. So we'll share more about specific botanical antivirals and, again, why this stuff doesn't have to be so scary next week. So thank you for joining me. If you have questions, let me know. And I look forward to sharing more about this and easing your fears next week. All right. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.